morning, everybody. Welcome to another Random Code stream. Whether you're watching this now or in the future, I'm going to continue working on this deregionizer refactoring. And actually, I think right before I started the stream, I was looking some stuff up because the testing of this I thought was going to be a little bit problematic, and I might take a different approach to this. So I'm going to drink a coffee, and let's get some quiet background music going on. And so here's the thing. To test a refactoring, there isn't a lot of information out there. There is this code refactoring testing library, which you can use this class. And I probably, given that this is very similar to what I do for like analyzer testing and things like that, it probably works very similar-ish. Okay. But the one thing that I started noticing as I was looking up how do I use this class, this C# code refactoring verifier, to do any testing. And I ran into what somebody reported, and I apologize in advance for the blinding white screen, which I really can't fault. Stack Overflow maybe, Stack Exchange maybe, but like my website is blindingly light mode. And I need to at least fix that. But this one talks about the fact of to do a mass code refactoring, which a refactoring actually right now, apparently, like if I just do this, this is just for that, changing the signature, stuff like that. Oops, that's not the one I wanted. I wanted that one, but that's a thing built into VS. The point is, refactorings, and I kind of forgot this, are not solution-wide. So, yeah, you make a diagnostic of severity head in with code fix. And there was the ability to, or they were looking at like creating APIs to fix all functionality for code refactorings. Close is not planned. But as somebody said, both in the Stack Overflow thing and here, is that you can do a workaround, which is basically you convert your refactoring into a diagnostic with severity info. Okay. Which is cool. That's interesting. And I think that kind of shows, like, if I want to do a refactoring, like if I want to remove regions, I would want to have the ability to say like here projects and document solution, whatever, and do it everywhere. So the other thing though that's underlying this is this Transpire project is I use it because I want to show how things work when I do a presentation. So it in part is stuff that I do find useful or that I think other people would find useful. But I also want to illustrate some things. And so it doesn't show source generators because Rocks is like my de facto, that's the one I go to show that one, or I got a couple others now that I think are decent. So I've got that covered. This one I want it to be just the other stuff, non-source generator stuff. And so I wanted to have a refactoring example. And I thought this one would be good, and I think it would be good. But I also have to admit that is one big shortcoming with refactorings is that you can't do them en masse. You have to do them just where it shows up. I mean, for a lot of refactorings, I'm sitting there going, it would really be nice if you could say do them everywhere, anywhere where you find this. Now some things like I used to have, and that might be a side thing to do. I used to have and it should be, where is it? Hold on. Yeah, the compiler. API book. I thought I had an example in here. Maybe that's disappeared over time. Modifying trees? No. There was one example that I had many, many moons ago. And what it did is it said for a particular document, reorganize everything so that it's in like a particular order. And so maybe that's the one. So maybe to do. Create a task to create a refactoring to reorganize a given class to be neater. And I know what that means. And so maybe that would be one that's a better-ish example. But I don't remember where I have that code. I know it's somewhere. I just don't remember where I put it. So that would be an archaeological dig to figure out where I did that. I thought I did it in my book, but I apparently it may be lost to time for all I know. So there's a whole bunch of places where I could have had it. Anyway, this one it's not that I'm trying to avoid the testing thing, but it's also, well, I really do want this to be something that shows the refactoring. So I'm kind of struggling right now. Do I build this as a refactoring, or do I build this as a analyzer with a code fix? Because the code fix one, the analyzer with code fix would be cool because it would be solution wide. So what I thought about what I could do here is this extension method I created is I could write an analyzer that looks at a node. And the self-descendant, that doesn't matter. It'd be like, this is the node that the analyzer is telling me to look at. And I say, does it have leading trivia? If it does it have any leading trivia that is region or end region? Any, it doesn't matter. So if I find one, then I provide a diagnostic that says remove region, I guess I could be more specific to say if there are any that are region, I could say remove region. If there's any that's are end region, remove end region. If there's both for some bizarre reason, remove region and end region directives. Or I could say remove region and or end region directives. Because if I want it to be potentially solution wide, then that would be the text that would show up there. Excuse me. So if I find that, that would be a diagnostic reported. And then on the other side is I'm putting all these in these nodes. So this is basically coming back to, I would find that in the code fix, the leading trivia. And then the trivia to remove would just say, go through the trivia list. And if I find any of these, then I add them. And then there's this thing too that because of how the trivia is handled, you have to look like one behind it or something. It's weird. And then if that's white space, you also have to remove that as well. And then I would basically just say, I know I would find some because the analyzer reported that there were some there. And so then I would just say the new node to return would be the one that replaces the trivia this way. I think I would also get rid then of this Oh no, I'm still doing this for different reasons, so that would not be removed. I thought I added it here, but no, I wouldn't. This one would be broken up. So I have a choice to make. Do I do this as a refactoring, or do I do it as an analyzer code fix? Like, I get why a refactoring is typically not done solution wide, because like you're saying, if I wanted to say, like, I wanted to take this for each method and say, it could say convert to link. It could say use explicit type. It could say extract method. Like some of those, it makes no sense at all. Like the convert to link or extract method, it doesn't make sense to say do that solution wide or even document wide. That's a very specific thing there, you know. If you come up here and it's not showing up right now, but there's like if I said using system, okay, I'm now going to get that one. But this, you can notice, is actually kind of what we're looking for, the analyzer with a code fix to say fix all in solution. Okay. This is not even like an informational thing. So it's IDE severity. So these are styled. They are analyzers. I would assume then that they follow that convention, but they're not even showing up on the, well, if I build this, yeah, it doesn't even show up here. So, but that's an example of one that, yes, just do it solution wide is what I'm looking for. And it's weird. See, now I'm talking myself out of it because I could also see where somebody says, no, I just want to do it here. But that's the advantage of an analyzer. Like if with using system here, then if I come back up, I can just say remove it, and it just removes it here. That's it. So if I wanted to, I have the choice. I could just remove it in one place. I could remove it everywhere. I did say in the last stream, there are occasions where I do like to put in region or an end region, but even in those cases, that's extremely rare. So would I then put a pragma around the region to say ignore it? Yeah, that I mean, in all honesty, this is kind of a silly one, you know, in a sense, because it's that big of a deal. But for the vast majority of cases, I don't like region or end region. And this is kind of one to just say I could remove them all in one spot. So this is also meant to be a little, a slight bit of comedy edge to it. If anybody would actually consider it to be funny. So design is hard. Naming is hard. You know, and that's something that is really important if you want to build something that you do want other people to use. What's the experience? What's it going to be like? And what's the quote unquote rightest way? The most rightness. What has the most rightness to it? And that's not always cut and dried. That's not always binary. You know, there's typically, more often than not, there's nuance to what you pick. And like at my day job, we're looking at taking a library that somebody wrote and putting it into the suite of libraries that we and our team are responsible for, that lots of other people can use in projects. And so we have to make sure that it follows any standards that we have, any conventions, you know, things like that. And and start, and also have the mindset of what's the right way that people would want to consume this? What are the names that we want to use? What are, those types of things. So it's, to me, it's never an easy decision. You really have to think hard. And if you watch like the API streams that the .NET team does when they're talking about new APIs, they can almost get into bike shedding pretty quickly at times. But it's important because you need to make sure that you're covering a lot of bases. You're taking into consideration things that you never thought of, and you're building APIs that potentially thousands, if not millions, of people could use. So you really, really need to put the time and the effort in to make sure that you're covering as many bases as you can. Like what's a consistent way of putting this API together that fits the whole of .NET, that doesn't seem like it's suddenly different from everything else we're doing, that's easily consumable, that's performant, that, and on and on and on and on and on. So yeah, it's not always an easy choice. With all that said, I think I could have another refactoring that says, hey, if you're in a class, right click on it and say alphabetize or something like that, or alphabet organize or whatever, put it into a state that puts everything into what I would consider to be a reasonable sorting. And I used to have that code somewhere. And you could argue that also is something that you would want to have as like a coding standard. If people said, hey, I want to do this, I want to make sure our stuff is that way all the time, then arguably you'd want an analyzer to let you know. But that's also fairly computationally expensive. That's another thing with refactorings is, like, to make sure something's in the right order with a class, you have to compute what would be the right ordering. And so you have to go through all the elements of a class to determine, or a type, if I put it into what I think the right order is, and that's what I currently have, then I don't report the refactoring. But I had to do all that work and that reshuffling to do that. So that wouldn't be that helpful. I also think this might be a good example of showing that the fact of, hey, you could say this should be a refactoring, and I just want to do it in one spot. But if it's the case that made me want to create this in the first place, which is I go into a code base and I find regions and end regions everywhere, and it's just a whole bunch of noise and it's not helping, I could, in literally a couple keystrokes, get rid of every single one in that solution. So there is that benefit. So with that, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this an analyzer and a code fix. And then I will find another example and at least put that into the backlog to have a refactoring one for future use. Even if it's not entirely great. Like you look at some of these too, there's a method parameter count analyzer, and you're like, why? And would I do this? To do, just provide the default values. I have no idea what you're talking about. This is a bad comment. Okay. I have no idea what I mean by that. But like the default info limit, it's like if you go beyond 4, yeah, you might want to know that that's there. Maybe you want to reduce it, because there's a kind of a rule of thumb that if you have more than 4 parameters to a function, it's not that it's wrong, but that's starting to get into the territory of that's starting to be too much, but that's a little bit dicey. So that's just an info. A warning is 16, because if you have 16 parameters, something's starting to smell pretty fishy, and you probably want to refactor that. And then I have an error limit, 32. And all of this came up. Do I have documentation of this? I should. I really, really should. I bet I do. Yeah, so the actual error 81942. This one is 32. I said just 32. Because if you got 32, my God, something is like really. The interesting thing is if you look at the issue, there is this article that talks about. See, this is wrong. Why? Well, to do. The docs for trans 11 don't match the error condition that's in code. Why? I don't know why. No, I want to do final references. Oh, this also illustrates. Oh, okay. Interesting. I forget what my code does. Maybe I need to just document better everything. Side note, I may need to up my documentation game on all of this. Because I forgot about this. There is a way that you can configure to make sure you don't go above this limit. So the default, so yeah, these are the defaults. Oh, that's why I put. Just provide the default values. Sorry, I've gotten really sidetracked here. Where am I using this? Well, these are the constants. Oh. Oh, I see what I'm saying here. Just provide the default values. But you could have, depending upon what you set this limit to, oh, and then I have different IDs. So you can say .NET Diagnostic, like trans 11, 12, 13, limit. And if I find that, then I do that. I do the default value. Okay, I get that. But I think what the problem here, though, is in here, what I really should be doing is using the configured values. Because that's actually, which might in all probability end up being the default values. But I always make sure that you're not above the maximum. And so it's like if you wonder why the maximum's there, then. So maybe what I should do is create a config instance during construction and use those for the limit values. And so that's why I have these conditions here. If you like have an error limit over this, or your warning is bigger than your error, or your emit's bigger than this, or there's one of these or 0. Then we just go to the default. Your configuration is wrong. Otherwise, we will pick what you give us. So you could make the info limit like 1,000. So, okay, so I do get why I did this. But that does not help for this. What I could do though is pass in then that value to analyze method declaration to configure the configuration value. What that would not do though is it would not pick up if you change this. It's basically, how would you know when that changed? And so I am doing a whole bunch of crap here, aren't I? So I can get the options this way. That's an additional text. Okay, but I want to use a tree. There's no way to know. There's get options and you go. Yeah, but there's no way to know if something changed, which is not a big deal. All right, sorry. I got very, very, very sidetracked for this, but I think I do want to put that in here. And then you get supported diagnostics. You just get that. You get an instance of this, which should be pretty quick to compute. And then you use that every time. It's a side issue. I have spent 30 minutes going through all this crap for I don't know what the reason is, but it's good to examine some stuff. Okay. Anyway, I think the right thing to do is to make this an analyzer plus a code fix, because it does also illustrate the point of if you wanted to do something where you want to give the user more control over doing everything. And if somebody would say, well, then you're not giving the ability to, what about ones that a user said is good, you know, and it's all, again, these what if scenarios. You don't have to use this. You can do it as a one-off if you really want to, you know. Maybe you know that in your test projects you have valid region and end regions, so you would just do it in the current project, you know. This gives you far more choices than what a refactoring would do. So we're doing it. Okay, so we're going to say, wait, deregionization analyzer. And then we also want a corresponding cofix. Again, I know that these should be in two separate projects, but this is what we're going with right now. So in the analyzer, and so you like the implement abstract class. That's perfect for that spot, you know, but that was also an error. So that's not a refactoring. That's actually something you truly do need to fix. Okay, so the way we do this is a rule. So we need a descriptor. Do we have one for the deregionizer? Did we even? No, you don't need one. Okay. descriptor. And so we want this to be a public static class. Except and this is one we want to have info, right? Because that's what the whole point of this was. It's very informational. Yep. And I like that I keep these all here, but that does have the unfortunate aspect of I got to go back and look at what is in my docs. Do I have a trans 12? I do. Well, how far do I go up here? Ay, ay, ay. There you go. Region and region directives are an abomination. Should be avoided. Fine. That'll be nice. Using region and or end region directives. Okay. So I've already gotten into way too silly of a mood. So we do this. Except this will be a descriptor. And then there. Okay, so now we're going to get into the heart of the matter. Which is, we want to do this. And now we want to say context, register, start. I think a syntax node action is really what we want. Because this gives us the node action. And then all. Registers in action to be executed at completion of semantic analysis of a syntax node with the appropriate kind. How about all of them? Because that is kind of what I want. I don't want to be specific to any. I mean, there's a ton of them. That's a list kind. There's just so many. If I go back into my what is has leading trivia defined on? It's a syntax node or token, and it's a struct. Says that's a symbol start action. A register syntax tree action. Registers an action to be executed at completion of parsing a code document. A syntax tree action reports diagnostics about the syntax tree of a document. Maybe that's better. Because I do want to look at the whole tree. And actually, we could say internals. So we would actually have now a syntax tree extensions. Internal static bool has region directives. This syntax tree self. And then we can kind of copy this. We can say self root descendant nodes and tokens any has leading trivia and And then any actually, let's do this. Formatting code is so hard. And so the syntax trivia we want is raw kind equals or raw kind is equal to. So we got that. And so what we're trying to do is want to find in a syntax tree, do we have any descending nodes and tokens where it has leading trivia and that leading trivia has any region or end region directives? I think that's fair. Okay, so we go into here. Has hidden regions. So if, and actually let's do node action cancellation. It does have that, cool. So let's actually pass that in. Cancellation token, because I believe get root has a cancellation token. Okay, cool. It's weird because the APIs don't necessarily have the asyncness to them, but I think that's right. So if it has this, then guess what, folks? What we're going to do is report a diagnostic. Node action report. Hey! So what we want to do is grab this one, that one. That might look really ugly because that's going to report the entire tree, but and then we'll want to pass that in here as well. And that's it. That is all it be. So now I think we can get rid of the code refactoring. We have an analyzer. Let's see if we can write a test. Well, I know I can write a test. What I meant by that is, can I write a decent test? Deregionizer analyzer tests. This might not be the best one to copy. Yeah, let's do this one. This one's probably a little bit more sensical for what I need to do. So let's do that. I want to grab that. That should be one. Deregionizer. Descriptor should be that. That. should be info. Will this run? Hey, we got a test to pass. Yippee! Okay. Now what we want to do is say analyze when region directive exists. Because I believe you can say region this sucks. But now it's like in region expected. So what don't you like? Does that contain a what? Huh. Maybe just grab these, make sure they're all up there. No, that didn't do anything. Oh. There we go. Oh, and then we say default analyzer. Got it. Default verifier. There we go. Okay, so we don't care. It does not matter. Public interface, I am useless. Region, useless, code. How do you actually... Ugh. End region. There. So you just see... This is just cracking me up. Where would the actual... Like I said, I think what it's going to do is this little specialized syntax here. Is it's going to put it around the whole document. The whole... Let's see. Region, end region directives exist. Now, of course, you could have a wrong document like what I did. You could just have region or just end region, but it doesn't matter in either case. Do not exist. And so now if we take this out, we do that, we do that, that should be fine. Oh, I'm so evil. I am so evil. I don't have anything for the code fix yet, which I could probably do yet. I just want to see. I want to see. What would happen? We close this and we put there should be scenarios. Okay. And so we want to have here region and region usage. Okay. I'll just say, it doesn't matter. Public interface, I am useless. Region, UG. It's not showing up. I see the other ones. I don't see... I'm also noticing that the URLs, the URL reporting may need some encoding love. Although I do think it does go to the right spot. It is in the list. I mean, well, it's... Let's make sure. Deregionizer. I mean, yeah, it looks like it's... Oh, there it is. Okay. Took a second. Is it on every... Like, what happens if I just... Yeah, it's... Okay, well, that's interesting. Oh, God. I mean, I get why it's doing this. It's because it's... I'm putting it at the root of the syntax tree. And so it's going to put that little informational message everywhere, which in an odd sort of way is kind of fun because it's really annoying when you start seeing that. So if I just add public interface, I am useful, and I have the stupid foo method here. Yeah, like all of this is, there's no way to fix it, but that's kind of funny. I find that funny and cute and funny. We only get one report. Okay, so that's interesting. And that kind of makes sense. We only get one reporting of this issue. What does suck, though, is that for some reason the error messages are not showing up like they should. Even though they definitely exist. This one's a warning case. Yeah. I'm not defining a method with to trip the error case. I could create configuration, though, that would try that. So that is something else I could look at. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. But it's not showing this up in the list here. Actually, Now it is because I went to the document. Oh well. Okay, so this is half the battle, which is cool. But let's see if we got an hour. I mean, I have no time limit today on anything. I just do want to keep these a little bit shorter-ish. So, by the way, if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. I would greatly appreciate it if you did that. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers is my first goal. So, if you wouldn't mind doing that, again, would appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so we've got the analyzer in place. Now what we need to do is get the code fix in place. And so let's do some copy pasta. Again, that is on the, well, I gotta get the file up. This is on the list, by the way, is to separate these out. I just haven't done that yet. So we'll make it public sealed. We'll do that. We'll get to those in a second. Remove region and end region directives. You may be saying to yourself, if you just came here, why would you want to do that, Jason? Remove region and end region directives. It's because they're evil. They're evil. Regions and end regions are evil. That is why we're trying to make I guess I don't have to do that. Yeah, it's just a batch fixer. That's the thing that they were talking about in here is to make, I think, have a fix all API so that this would say fix all, but it never happened. I don't think so. Anyway. Okay. Excuse me. Fixable diagnostic IDs will be diagnostic or deregionize, if I could spell that ID. And then we'll put that up here, but we want to do it sort of like that, except way different. Okay, so what we want to do here is we know that if you reported this, it is the syntax root. Just get rid of that. That's I don't do that anymore. All right. So we get the root. That gets the root. This gets the diagnostic. The cancellation token, throw the cancel. Yeah, that's fine. The new code fix would actually be what we would have here, except let's pull this now out of syntax no extensions, put it into syntax tree extensions, because that's what we want to do, except yeah, that's wrong actually, because we want to get the root. Sorry, that was a mistake. We'll just put that back in here. There we go. Okay, so what we want to do now is in the deregionized code fix, we want to say var new root is the root node deregionize. That is literally it. And we know we can get that. Why are you not? Possible null reference argument for parameter self. Oh, there. I hate that's one thing I hate about await and async is it's just a minor nit is that the await gets the result, passes it out, but then that is what is potentially nullable, so you got to put that there. So it's just something to get used to. Okay, so do you write that. Why would that be? No, we know that that is true. Because we would not have gotten here otherwise. So we can change that. There you go. All right, so now that is good. Right. I feel adventurous. Let's go into the scenarios project. I just heard my younger son leaving for work, so that's good. And now so we should eventually see I'm sort of useful. I don't know what to do to trigger it to have it come up here. It did show up before. There we go. That's interesting. Why does it show up there? Because the test does show, I don't have it up here now, but I'm almost positive the test does show. Oh, you know what? I should try to put something above it so that it's, yeah, let's just do that, make sure. But anyway, here's the kicker. I'm so evil. And look at that. You could do it across the entire solution. You could just wipe out every region and end region in your code with one fell swoop. You can't do that with a refactoring right now. As odd as this looks, I'm kind of grooving on it. So yeah. And then if I say move it, the error goes away. And all is good with the world. Now, the one thing you're noticing here, though, is that when I do this, there ends up being a space at the end of it. So, if end region is at the end of the file, I might need to remove white space. Like, and +1. Maybe. That note doesn't make a lot of sense, but yeah, that's kind of cool. it's just, I find that kind of cool. And again, if somebody always said, well, I could just put I'll make a regionizer. I'm like, go for it. Because I'll always win, or at the very least, I'll always be able to keep up with that. I can just say run it for the whole solution, you're done. You have to go into all the code and put in ones. And if you just want to put a region and end region in your code to try to fight, then you got to go through all the nodes and make sure you're putting all the syntax in there correctly and stuff like that. This is, I mean, it took some code here, but really it's pretty easy to do this. So yeah, let's write some tests to end this stream. We have code fix tests, so let's also make a deregionizer code fix tests. Okay, let's actually do that and do that, because we want to copy what we've been doing. Static class. This will be the region. Regionizer code fix. Do the simple test first. That should be fine. And it is. The bigger one, though, is this one. So we want to say verify GIF fixes when region and region exist. So we can use the similar code we did in the analyzer test. Sort of. I got to take those out because now that doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, because we want those there. And so what the end code should look like, and this is where I think that space is going to end up being. That goes away. That goes away, but there's a space there. And it failed. Oh, you still have to. Oh, okay. I should have noticed that. You do need to put that in there. Whoops. Now let's run it. And it passes. Nice. There's more work to do here to clean this up even a little bit more. Like I said, I don't like that there's a space here. Though I would get it if I did have, like, what would happen if I did this? If I said public interface, I am useful, 1L, void do work. And now this would be at the, it's still the whole document that gets it, but would this be the way it looks? And it does. So this trivia thing is where it gets a little dicey, because I do want to remove that region, the end region. I want that to go away like it does. But it's happening is, for some reason, there's an extra line being added if it is the end of line, if there's the last line there. And that might be something that's just in Roslyn that I can't get around. But that would only happen if that's the last thing in your code file. May not be all worth it to struggle with that. So, but cool. I have the deregionizer in place. Let's commit change to using Analyzer plus code fix. Things are looking good. Boom. All right, so I want to get my ducks in a row and looking at the to-dos with this and figuring out what else needs to be done. Maybe doing some work to figure out another refactoring to put in that might be a little bit more indicative of what a real refactoring should be. This could be one because whatever. I talked about that ad nauseum previous in the stream. So I think I'm going to keep it this way because it's also a good example to show if you want to have a refactoring that gets applied everywhere, a workaround-ish until they would ever decide to make a refactoring solution-wide is to do something like this. So in any event, I'm good with this for now. I might do one more stream on this. But if not, there's some other things that I can move on to with some code streams. So thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate it. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. I would greatly appreciate it, as my first goal is to try to get to 1,000 subscribers. So the more, the better. So thank you in advance for doing that. And I am going to stop the stream. Oh, one reminder real quick. I am going to be doing some more Rime gaming streams this afternoon, this evening. So watch for that. Thank you all for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you in the future.